Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
Fresh off a three-game sweep of the Milwaukee Brewers at home, the Cincinnati Reds head to the Big Apple in Citi Field in Flushing, New York to take on the New York Mets, the first of four in New York. It's the Reds against the Mets. Hi, hello, and welcome to New York, everyone. Along with the crafty left-hander Chris Welch and Jim Day, I'm George Grant. Reds trying to keep a winning streak going, win their fourth in a row, but they're going to have to do it, Chris, without Billy Hamilton.
Well, he hurt himself trying to lay down a bunt the other day. A fastball came up and got him on the thumb, and as it turns out, he ended up fracturing his hand, and that's going to keep him out. He was just put on the disabled list today, and he was gone for at least 10 days, but probably longer than that, more than likely anything, probably done for the rest of the year, although there's a chance he could come back at the very end. He's been instrumental here in this last little bit of win streak that the Reds have been putting on. Here are the slow Septembers he's had recently, though.
You know, he's been in the lead each September for the stolen base title, and each year he's had an injury, concussion, shoulder, oblique, thumb. So this year with 58 stolen bases, he still leads all of the major leagues. Will he win it? We'll find out, and he may very well be activated enough so at least he can pinch run. The one thing we do know is that the Reds will go to the close with rookie pitchers still going at it. Tyler Mahle will get the ball today, and he's looked good, Chris.
Well, he has looked really good. I mean, he's a guy that I think that the Reds were almost reluctant to bring up because he is only 22 years old, but he was just so dominant down in Double-A and then again in Triple-A that he earned his way up here. And now that he's been here, he really pitches like he's just completely unfazed that he's in the major leagues. He's got a nice live fastball. He's got a nice breaking ball. He's got good command of his pitches. He knows what he wants to do. He just seems very much mature beyond his years.
Cautionary tale here because he'll face on the mound Matt Harvey. 3 years ago, Chris, it looked like that guy might be the best pitcher in baseball. He's had some injuries.
Well, he's had more than just some injuries, George. He's been derailed and then derailed again. I mean, he was 25-18 the first few years of his career. Then since that time, it's been awfully tough. He came back from the disabled list, went only 2 innings, gave up 7 runs his last time out against a very tough Houston Astro lineup. So he's got another tough lineup ahead of him tonight. Right now, the Reds are swinging the bats very well.
And one guy who's really been swinging it is Eugenio Suarez at third. Yep, he's been a third sacker that's played well defensively, but boy, is he swinging it. JD, Jim Day will have that story when we return to Citi Field in New York.
brought to you by Chevy. Check out their award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time. Citi Field in New York, Mets and Reds coming up, and the Reds, as they continue to build towards the future, boy, do they have a cornerstone to build around at third base in Eugenio Suarez. He continues to impress offensively and defensively. We've seen his improvement defensively at the hot corner, but offensively, swinging a good bat, and particularly against the New York Mets, the first time they saw the Mets here recently. 5 for 10 in that series, a double, RBI, and scored 3 runs against the Metropolitans. He has been much more patient at the plate. That on-base percentage way up above 300. And if you check out our IGS Bringing the Energy, hot corner, hot bat, he's a Reds third baseman with consecutive seasons of 25 or more doubles and 20 or more home runs. Suarez with his 25th double yesterday. So 2016 and 2017, he's done it. He joined Sabo 1990 and 1991. And Doggy, Tony Perez, he came up at third baseman before they moved him over to first base. 1969 and 70, Perez did it as well. Well, the Reds hope his hot bat continues here in New York, and the Reds hope to take a bite out of the Big Apple. First of 4, Reds and Mets, coming up with George and Chris on Fox Sports Ohio.
Last night, pouring down rain. They were just able to get a rain delay game in. And tonight, different story. Very pleasant, almost autumn-like feel to the ballpark here as the Reds are ready to take on the New York Mets. There's Brian Price and Joey Votto in preparation for game 1 of this 4-game set. Let's check Brian Price's starting lineup for the Reds against the Mets here tonight. Phillip Ervin will take the spot of Billy Hamilton in the leadoff spot. Ervin in the leadoff spot tonight will play center field in place of Billy, who's on the disabled list with that broken thumb. Zach Cozart, who homered yesterday, in at 305. Cozart now sitting on 18 homers for the season. Joey Votto at 313. Duvall behind him. Scooter Gennett now under 300 at 298. Suarez, who's been red hot. Schebler, your right fielder. Turner gets the call behind the plate, catching Tyler Mahle. That's 1 through 9. Your Menard starting lineup for Brian Price and the Reds. On the mound for the New York Mets, Chris, the Reds have been blessed with some great young pitchers. When this guy came up in 2012, he burst upon the scene as a rookie.
Well, you're right, George, and he has shown that since then, when healthy, he can be a very, very good pitcher. Always been blessed with a good fastball, an exceptional fastball, actually. He was a #1 draft pick. That usually comes with the territory. The Mets got him out of the University of North Carolina. Got off to a great start, but the last couple of years really has been off the rails with a lot of different injuries, most recently a shoulder injury.
See the numbers 4-4 and an ERA of almost 6. His last time out against Houston was not a very good one, was it?
No, it wasn't. But, you know, it's tough coming off the disabled list and pitching against a team like that. That is an exceptional offensive team, but he's pitching against another pretty good offensive team tonight. The thing about Harvey is that when he first came on the scene, he was one of the harder throwers around. And he's lost a little bit on his fastball, 2 miles an hour or so, you know, from back in 2015 to now. So he's going after it with a little bit less stuff. And hard throwers always have leaned on that hard stuff to be able to, you know, in times of toughness, to be able to get by. So he's now learning how to pitch, which is the tough thing to do at this level.
See the ugly numbers from that start in Houston. That's the only smile that Houstonites had against anything named Harvey that day. And we send our best wishes and thoughts to everyone in the Houston area as they continue to recover from Hurricane Harvey, and also to everyone down in Florida now bracing for the next hurricane up the pike. So Phillip Ervin, who's hit in 4 straight, will work a walk to start things off for the Reds. The Mets have allowed 123 first inning runs. That's more than anybody else in Major League Baseball. That's the bad side of it. The good side of it is they've scored the second most number of first inning runs for Terry Collins in his ball club.
It seems to me early on he's only pitched to one batter, but Harvey's mechanics are just way out of whack. I mean, he's just trying to find a comfort zone, it seems to me, where he can get to a balance point and find the same arm slot every time. If you watch where he missed with those pitches to Ervin, he was all over the place.
There's Cozart at 305, 18 homers, 52 knocked in. Cozart's one of those who've had success against Harvey even in his best days. He's 6 for 11 and a homer against Harvey. Well, you saw Joey Votto is in the on-deck circle, due up next. Votto's 5 for 12 and a homer against the big right-hander. From the stretch is Harvey. Here's the 1-strike delivery. Ervin is going. This pop back and out of play. Phillips stole 23 bases in the 99 games he performed in at Louisville, so he's got a little speed, Chris. He's not Billy Hamilton, but Brian Price said he's not afraid to push the running game with Ervin at the top.
He can play center field. I mean, he's got plenty of wheels. I mean, don't benchmark everybody running with Billy Hamilton. That's not fair
right
to everybody else. I mean, he's got plus speed. I think that's what you do. You get a good break. One thing about Harvey going to the set position stretch is that sometimes when you're really wacky in your full windup and you can't find any rhythm, all of a sudden you go into your stretch, there's not as much movement, and all of a sudden you kind of can become more compact and find it. So it wouldn't surprise me, and it hasn't, that he's thrown 2 strikes to Cozart.
No balls, 2 strikes to Zach. Short lead for Ervin down at first. Harvey to the stretch. Here's the 0-2. Not going this time. That's ripped but foul. Right on top of it, and he lines it off the upper deck in left field. Cozart, you could have put one on a tee for him yesterday with his homer against the Milwaukee Brewers, and boy did the Reds turn the offense on and win 3 in a row against Milwaukee.
Well, it was one of those trap series for Milwaukee. They were sandwiched in between the Washington Nationals and the Chicago Cubs, and it was the Reds that snuck up on them.
0-2 popped up in the infield. Plawecki can't find it. Will anybody? Dominic Smith will. Plawecki looked up and said, I don't see it. Dominic Smith came in, took charge, and there's one away. Here's your 4th defensive alignment for the Mets. The Mets are 9th in the league in defense statistically. They've committed 79 errors compared to 66 for Cincinnati. You don't see very many of the starters that were in this lineup when the year started. Nori Aoki is your right fielder. They don't even have a picture of him. That's why Aoki just came over from Toronto. The masked man.
He's been around for about 10 years. I mean, you should be able to find a photo of him somewhere.
Nemo and Lagares in the outfield. Pretty speedy outfield. Cabrera, Reyes, Reynolds, Smith, and Plawecki behind the plate. And that's the story of the Mets season. I mean, number 1, the pitching went down, and then number 2, they dismantled. Jay Bruce is gone. Neil Walker is gone. Addison Reed traded. Granderson traded. Rene Rivera traded. Darno not starting tonight behind the plate, so Plawecki gets the start behind the plate. And then the injuries. I mean, Michael Conforto was having a brilliant year, dislocated his shoulder. Cespedes is out again for Terry Collins with a hamstring injury. David Wright's been out all year. Syndergaard, Wheeler, Matz, those pitchers have been out too. So the Mets have had their injury problems. There's the one strike delivery. Check swing, and you're right, Chris, working from the stretch, he's thrown nothing but strikes. Joey with that 5 for 12 mark against Harvey and the 1 homer. Overall at .313, 34 homers, 93 knocked in.
Well, how many times have we seen it, though, that a pitcher gets Joey Votto 0-2? And most hitters, you got him right where you want him, but I think it's the other way around with Votto at the plate.
Setting up, down and away. Plawecki, there goes the runner. Right where Reyes was. Votto punches one into left. Irvin stumbles, but then gets his feet righted and gets to third. Perfect placement by Votto. Reyes was going to cover the bag, and after 2 steps towards the bag with Irvin going, Joey takes advantage of it, and it's first and third.
Well, Votto is just such a magician with the bat, and I doubt that he was looking at Reyes as he was going to second base, but he probably was gambling that there would be some, coverage like that where the opposite field infielder is going to cover the bag on a proposed stolen base, and that's what happened.
So the Reds have something going with 1 out here in the first, and here comes Adam Duvall. 31 homers, 93 knocked in for the Reds left fielder. Duvall has struggled in this second half, trying to get himself righted in this final month. Breaking ball misses down and away, says home plate umpire and the crew chief Jerry Lane. Dan Bellino's the umpire down at first. Marvin Hudson at second. And Shane Livensparger is your third base umpire. Harvey from the stretch, first and third. Votto short lead. And it's 2-0. I mean, it was electric when Harvey first came up, Chris. He was drafted by the Mets. This now his 8th season. Made his major league debut in 2012. In that debut, he struck out 10. Named the starting pitcher for the National League in the 2013 All-Star game. Everything was rocketing to start him.
Even to the point that he had a nickname that came from the Batman movie that came out just about the same time that he was brought up to the major league. So he was known as the Dark Knight who would save Gotham.
And Syndergaard was Thor. So they had front page, back page headlines for those 2 pitchers, and it looked like they'd be dominant for years. Each has had injury difficulties. Matz, we chronicle those that are on the DL right now. And just as the Reds look to 2018, knowing that starting pitching will be the key, the same story for the Mets, for them to contend. Here's the 2-1 to Duvall. High in the air, left center field. This will stay in the park. Tagging in third is Irvin. At the warning track, Lagares has it. Irvin will score. A sacrifice fly for Adam. That's his 94th run batted in, and the Mets have given up another first inning run, the 124th of the year, and the Reds have taken a 1-0 lead. Well, here's a chronological list of where Matt Harvey's gone from the early years, Chris, from 2012 to 2015, where he was, his earned run average, and then the last 2 years, a stark difference.
It is very difficult to predict injury, especially with pitchers, and the more the teams begin to protect their pitchers from the standpoint of number of pitches per game and number of innings in a year, it seems like the more injuries that are occurring. So I'm not so sure that there's a strong correlation anymore, but you still see teams shutting down pitchers in the month of September because we don't want them to go over the innings limit. Well, the Mets could not have handled Matt Harvey any more conservatively than they did, and yet he's had injury problem after injury problem.
1 ball to Scooter. He's 1 for 5 against Harvey in his career.
Someday somebody will figure out the real correlation between pitchers' injuries and what they're doing to make themselves injured, and they'll make a lot of money and have a pretty good team.
Terry Collins is one that could only scratch his head about what's happened to his starting rotation. Chris, you've done so much work with young pitchers, and Harvey goes to the stretch. That's fouled off, and And we see it so often today. You know, between showcases and pressure of young pitchers to throw hard and be noticed. And sometimes the injuries start then when they're 14, 15, 16 years old, and they'll surface maybe 6, 7, 8 years later. I don't think you can blame major league pitching coaches and what they do at this level. Very often that wear and tear starts very early. 2 balls, 1 strike. Slice to the left side. Cabrera drifting back in foul territory. He can't hold on. Well, it looked like the left fielder Nemo was there and prepared to make the catch, but Cabrera waved him off. And this one eludes him, and another life for Scooter.
Well, he's waving off the outfielder right there like I got it all the way and just never gets to the spot.
Yelling all the way, waving him off. I don't even know whether he ever got glove on it.
I'll tell you, for a veteran like Cabrera, that's you don't see that very often.
Well, the Mets have seen a lot of that this year defensively.
Cabrera is the one lone player left over from the 2015 World Series. This team was in the World Series 2 years ago. They lost in 5 games to the Kansas City Royals, and they have one player on the field who was a starter in that World Series. So it goes to show you the turnover that they have had. They were in the playoffs last year as a wild card.
Lagares, of course, was on the team but didn't start.
And right now they're 1 game worse than the Reds.
The Reds knew they were rebuilding from the get-go this year. Everyone around this ballpark, when March came around, they thought they'd be in the playoffs. Not just a wild card, but they thought they'd win the division. Ripped to right. That's a base hit. Votto will stop at second. Norieoki will get it in, and that's, along with a walk, the second hit in the inning by the Reds. So Scooter continues to hammer the baseball. He's on first and second, and here comes Eugenio Suarez.
Now Harvey did a favor right there to Scooter Gennett by throwing him a breaking ball. He was behind on his fastball. He fouled a couple straight back, and then he fouled that one down the left field line that Cabrera couldn't catch. And then he comes in with a little breaking ball, and that has a tendency of speeding the bat up a little bit. Boy, Scooter's having some kind of the ball must just look like a beach ball to him.
You know, and Chris, on the field part of it, the other side of it off the field, being the Reds nominee for the Roberto Clemente Award, that's pretty special. So Harvey to the stretch, 2 on, 2 out. Here's Eugenio. Talk about red hot. Suarez now 24 homers, 75 knocked in. Those are career highs in both categories. And over the last 17 games at 350, that's got his average up over 270 now. He's at 273. That slapped the other way, and it's 0-2. Harvey grew up about 2 hours from here in New London, Connecticut. Played for his dad at Fitch High School in Groton, Connecticut. Still keeps roots there and still spends a lot of time in the community there. Sound like a broken bat to center field, but there will be Lagares. He'll haul it in. The Reds do some business, though. A couple of hits. A sacrifice fly from Adam Duvall, and the Reds lead it 1-0. Tyler Mahle takes the mound when we return. Reds with a 1-0 lead as we go to the bottom of one. Let's check your Menard starting lineup for the Mets. Once a Met, then away, now a Met again. Jose Reyes back in the leadoff spot will lead it off. Nori Aoki, released by Toronto, came here and he's sitting on a hitting streak and has played well since coming over. Cabrera hits third. Nimmo hits in the cleanup spot. Lagares, Smith, Plawecki, Reynolds, and Harvey. That's your starting lineup for the New York Mets, sponsored by Menards. And here for the Reds is another bright, young, right-handed pitcher for Cincinnati, Tyler Mahle.
Well, Malle's had a couple of pretty good starts out there, considering it's his first and second big league start. Last one very good, although the Reds have lost both of them. Really no fault of the Reds starting pitcher right here. Always fun to see him pitch. These young guys that seem to be making little baby steps of progress each time they come out.
Won't turn 23 until the 29th of September. Reyes sends this one to right. In his tracks is Schebler. He's got it, and there's one away. Here's your fourth defensive alignment for the Reds. No Hamilton in center, so Phillip Ervin is there. Duvall and Schebler as usual, in left and right. Across the infield, Suarez, Cozart, Scooter, Gennett, and Votto. And Turner gets the start catching Mahle once again. The Reds defensively third in the league with those 66 errors on the season. Phillip back in center field. He took over for Billy after Billy injured his finger yesterday. And Brian Price saying before the game he feels it's probably not a season-ending injury, so you may very well see Billy before the month of September is over. Here's Aoki, released by Toronto, picked up here, adding a veteran presence on a team that lost most of its veterans. And talking to Terry Collins before the game, he said, I can't tell you how impressed I was with Jay Bruce. He did everything we asked of him and 10 times more. Now, much, Chris, the same way it was in Cincinnati. When Joey Votto got hurt, it was Jay Bruce that came into Dusty Baker's office, says, you need me, I'll play first. Same thing happened here. He walked into Collins' office when they had all the injuries. That's through the legs into center field, and Mahle almost got a glove on it, but Aoki will get a base hit. One out and one on for the Mets.
Well, you know, as a pitcher, you wonder how you don't catch these things, because you see it coming, you know you're right in front of it, you put your glove down, and somehow this one goes right through the wickets and safely into center field.
That's a 10-game hitting streak for the right fielder for the Mets. And here comes Cabrera. 264, 12 homers, 47 knocked in. Cabrera, of course, normally a shortstop, has played third and second here. Reyes has bounced all over the field as well. In fact, had his first start in left field. He's back at his normal shortstop spot tonight. Strubal's been on a roll of late. His RBI total up to 47. He's had 12 runs batted in his last 13 games. 4, 6, yes sir, 3. Twin killing for the Reds. Their 117th of the season. Back to work for Cincinnati. Mahle will be up third. Starters in the Reds rotations, rookies, and yesterday we saw the final start of this season for Luis Castillo. What a dandy, Chris.
Boy, he has been, I mean, he's been dominating number one just about every time out there. No more than yesterday, though. I mean, he was just terrific.
Schebler sends this one into the right field corner. He'll have a two-base hit as Aoki can't catch up with it. So Scott Schebler, a leadoff hit here in the second. Reds have a runner in scoring position.
Tell you what, the Reds are seeing the ball very well off of Harvey right now. Schebler with that very patented, you want to say, very level swing.
Catch that rabbit. So Schebler's in scoring position. Two-bagger number 21 for him on the season. And here's Turner. Turner in at 154. Couple of homers and 7 knocked in. This one looped into right, sinking. Aoki coming in, got it. Schebler going nowhere. There's one away, and that'll bring up the pitcher Malley. Now, Chris, you made your living as a pitcher, and you know when you step to the mound and you know you got everything working and your mechanics are right, it's a tough job even with that. When everything's a little bit off, how do you get back where you were? And that's what Matt Harvey's dealing with right now.
Really the hardest thing there is, because when your mechanics are right, whether it's as a pitcher or a hitter, you don't even think about the mechanics. You think about the strategy of hitting the baseball or the strategy of throwing your pitch. But when you've got something mechanical wrong and you've been working on it in the bullpen or you've been working on it in the batting cage, you know, in the back of your mind you're thinking, all right, am I keeping my head in there? Is my shoulder in? Am I striding in the right spot? And you lose the real concentration of the guy who's in the batter's box.
Schebler off second with Reyes behind him. Here's the 0-2 to the Reds pitcher. Setting up down and away is Plawecki. Fouled off, stays alive. We've been impressed so much by Malley on the mound. Also at the plate, too. He handles himself pretty well.
Yeah, he's got good stage presence.
Setting up down and away again, Plawecki. We live in a day and age of radar guns, of course. We've talked a lot about it, game in and game out, week in and week out. And everybody points out, you know, here was Harvey, used to be at 97, 98. Now his fastball's 92, 93. But that's not really even the most important thing at this stage of his development. It's just getting his mechanics together, getting his location together.
He may never have that blazing fastball back again. I mean, it's almost like Homer Bailey. Homer Bailey has to, and he's done a very good job of kind of reinventing himself as more of a sinker ball pitcher, down around the knees, using his breaking ball and split finger off-speed pitch much more than before. Doesn't go up the ladder like he used to with that 95-mile-an-hour heater. And I think that the same transition might be, you know, necessary for Matt Harvey or anybody who has once thrown 96 miles an hour and now throws 93.
Here's the litany of injuries that he had. Partial tear of the ulnar collateral ligament in August. Missed the season with Tommy John in 2014. 2015 came back, was the Sporting News Comeback Player of the Year with 216 innings pitched after missing a full year. And then last year his season ended July and did not come back until early this year and spent another stint on the disabled list again.
Oh.
This is a rocket by Irvin to left. It's going to be off the top of the wall. That'll get a run in, and Phillip will cruise into second. A two-base hit for Phillip Irvin. Now a 5-game hitting streak. He's been on base twice, and boy, did he tattoo this one.
You know, Irvin has gotten, his swing has gotten so much better than when I remember the Reds first drafted him. You know, you always want to go down and look at a #1 draft pick, and he looked like he had raw talent, but he was very, like, almost mechanical with his swing. It's much smoother now, very quick. You can see how quickly that bat gets through the zone.
So Irvin's in scoring position. Schebler scampers home, and here's Cozart. And a good job, by the way, by Malley. Down 0-2. He found a way to get the bat on the ball, move the runner to third. Simple things, but he's shown us he can get a bunt down. He's shown us he can get the bat on the ball. Here's Cozart. Popped out to the first baseman first time up. There is only one Tom Seaver, only one Doc Gooden, but when number 33 burst on the scene here in New York, they were making comparisons early on. It's longevity, and it's how you do over the long haul. Number 41, Tom Seaver, certainly did. Yes, he did clip the corner. 1-2. And Chris, you've been there. I mean, you came up in the Yankee organization. Not easy not to be lured by what happens in New York when you're a matinee idol. And I think he fell victim to some of that too.
I don't think there's any question about that. It's easy to read your own headlines here in New York because they're everywhere. And of course, nowadays they're accessible, you know, everywhere you go. You're carrying them around with you in their pocket. And, you know, if you buy into it and you start believing what they write about you, sometimes, you know, it takes you away from your main focus, which is to work your behind off to stay here. But I think it's just been injuries that have derailed Harvey and not much more.
And the Mets will have a decision after this year. I mean, at one point, Harvey was probably looking at a 3-figure contract or more. And now the Mets will have a decision. Do they non-tender him this year? Do they pay him $6, $7, or $8 million to keep him and hope that he gets back to where he was?
I don't think there's any chance that they would non-tender Harvey. Although I'm not running this ball club, I would be stunned.
You know, it's the William O. Pena effect too. You don't want to let a guy go thinking that someday this guy's going to be a star, and we were the ones that let him go.
Well, that's true, and he's had such good seasons recently as a couple of years ago, and the only thing that's really hurt him has been injuries. So you stick with a guy like this. He's one of your own.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Cozart. Down and in, good spot. But the Reds, with Phillip Irvin's double, take a 2-0 lead. Storyline: serious lawyers for serious injuries. You look at these two teams where they've gone prior to August the 23rd in starters earned run average. The Mets had an ERA of a little over 5, ranked 27th. Since August the 24th, the Mets ERA has gone up over a run. On the other hand, Chris, the Reds ERA with these young pitchers coming into their own looks a whole lot better.
Well, you have to be really impressed with the way the pitching has been kind of coming together. Unfortunately, you know, we're going to say goodbye to it because Tyler Mahle, you know, has reached almost his innings limit. The Reds have been kind of quiet about what they're going to do going forward, but at some point they're probably going to say, hey, you've had a good year, that's it. The same way they've told Luis Castillo that.
Castillo about 30 innings more than he had last year in the minor league, so they're right about where they wanted him to be.
And I think the other thing that they keep in mind, George, is that, you know, Castillo first year in big league spring training, so your spring training starts a month earlier too. And you know, Mahle the same way. So you know, the first time that you show up in February instead of showing up in March, that adds a month to your overall work, you know, months, and you know, they take that into consideration.
There's Brandon Nimmo. This one sent down to right field in the corner. Schebler long run, reaching up, and he can't hold on. Rounding first, going to second will be the Mets left fielder, and he'll be on with a 2-base hit. Well, he's taking advantage of this time in the lineup with Cespedes out again on the disabled list.
Cespedes out, Jay Bruce gone, Granderson gone. I mean, they're looking for bodies to play outfield right now, and Nimmo gets his shot. Left-handed hitter hits it all the way down in the corner. That's a play that we have seen Schebler come up with more often than not, just unable to hang on to that one.
So Nimmo's in scoring position to lead off the second, and here's Lagares. Juan Lagares has hit in 7 straight, started his year in the minor leagues and called back up in the month of August by the Mets after all the changes took place. Still a brilliant defensive center fielder. Overall this season, a couple of homers, 13 knocked in. Mahle to the stretch. There's the 0-1. Good speed at second for the Mets.
Well, Nimmo can run. Lagares can really run. He's an excellent center fielder. The Mets kind of have to make a decision on him too, because despite his defensive capabilities, and he is one of the best out there. We're spoiled by Billy Hamilton. Mets fans are spoiled by Lagares, but you know, he has a hard time staying on the field. He's only averaged about 20 or 75 games a year the last couple of years.
No balls, 2 strikes. Bounce to Votto. He'll take the out at first. The runner will go to third. There's your first out of the inning. Now we talked, Chris, about the innings limit for Castillo. He reached his innings limit. JD, I know there's been a lot of talk with Brian Price and Mac Jenkins about Mahle too.
Yeah, Mally's in a little different situation. I asked Brian Price today if tonight was his last start. He said no, he'll make one more at least. He said possibly 2. Again, that they want to get him to 30 to 35 innings total, more than he pitched last year. So 1, maybe 2 more.
Mahle to the stretch. Here's Dominic Smith. And
I'm glad to hear that. Really, I'm not one of these guys that really buys into the shutdown program. I mean, to have Luis Castillo here on this ball club basically for the next 3 weeks doing nothing is, I think it's kind of a waste. But I mean, maybe he doesn't need to go out and pitch every 5th day and rack up the 100 pitches every time out. But you know, I like to keep these guys active mentally, especially because you can learn something every day that you're up here. And I'm happy to know that Mahle is going to be up here and pitching a few more times.
2-0 to the young first baseman Dominic Smith. That's 3-0. And JD, the other side of it is, I mean, Brian Price has made it clear that these young pitchers that have come up are going to get a chance to pitch. I mean, Amir Garrett's the next in line to go tomorrow.
Yeah, he basically said the only one Cody Reed will most likely exclusively work out of the bullpen, and they need a lefty right now as the Mets score a run. But everyone's going to get a chance to start at least once. At least that's the plan.
You know, the other thing, George, when it comes to Mahle and Castillo, I mean, if you do project those guys in your rotation, And if you do project the Reds being contenders next year, and say everything goes right for the Reds, and now they're in the postseason, you're going to ask these pitchers to go from 160 innings or 170 innings to possibly 230 innings based on going into the postseason next year. So that's when you throw that innings limit right out the window because you're worried about winning.
And that's really where the Mets were back a couple of years ago. Remember, they were going to shut Harvey down, and then Harvey said, no, I want to pitch. And as it turned out, he ended up going under the knife for Tommy John surgery. Here's Plawecki in at 237, swing and a miss. And the innings limit can be dealt with in September or in April and May too. I mean, give a guy an extra day off instead of piling up innings and then ending up having to shut him out. Flip down to first. Plawecki's retired. Runner goes to second, and there's 2 away. 5-3 put out. And here's Matt Reynolds, the second baseman. You know, we talked a year ago, Chris, sitting here, and then all during spring training. You know, you sat there and watched, and the question would be, what would the Reds' rotation be in 2017? Who were among the young pitchers would be the keepers for the new year? Well, the injury bug hit. Bailey went down. DeSclafani went down. Finnegan went down. They will walk Reynolds intentionally, and that'll bring up Harvey with runners at first and second and 2 away. And here we are, you know, basically a year later, and the question will be, who will make up the Reds rotation in 2018?
Well, it just goes to show you, the smarter you think you are, the dumber you really are, because those pitchers will show you themselves who the guys, who the keepers are, who the starters are, who the relievers are, and who belongs back in the minor leagues.
Remember all those guys together in spring training wondering what this year would be, all those young pitchers against the rail there? Each of them has learned in different ways during the course of this year. You know, you start with Amir Garrett. You and I have both talked to him since he's been back up. Sal Romano, Stevenson, go down the list. All of those guys learned a lot. And
well, what they've really learned is the big leagues is a hard place to pitch.
And of that rail bunch right there, the second one from the left, DeSclafani is probably the most frustrated of all of them. He wanted so much to show what he could do this year, and injuries have prevented him from doing that. He's learned a lot from the guy he's sitting next to in Bronson Arroyo, hasn't he? He spent a lot of time talking baseball with him. 2 balls, no strikes.
I think that DeSclafani's just hoping that his arm holds out.
Yep.
I mean, when you have the injuries that he has had that has beset him for basically 2 full years. And in the meantime, now all of a sudden you're seeing guys like Castillo coming up and throwing the way they are. You're seeing a 22-year-old like Malley throwing the way it is. Romano, you know, Garrett, the potential of Cody Reed, and so on. I mean, you've got some guys with really high ceilings here. And he's got to be wondering, I better stay healthy so I can fit into this group.
So after walking Reynolds intentionally, it's now 3-1, and there's one right down the middle. Full count, 3-2 to Harvey. Harvey, for his career, a homer and 12 knocked in. This year, no home runs, no runs batted in, and 074. Double and a single have given the Mets a run. That's one bounced to the mound. Nice job by Malley, and he'll get the out. So the Mets will strand a pair. They get a run. Reds still lead 2-1.
Hurricane Irma as it approaches Florida, including some of these Reds players that are from Florida and live in Florida or have family there. Scooter Gennett in the Sarasota area. He says his parents and his sister are actually driving to Cincinnati as we speak to stay in his place there. Bronson Arroyo was born in Key West, and he has uncles and cousins there, and also he owns his grandma's house there. But those people in Key West are really used to these hurricanes, and they are going to stay and tough it out. Eugenio Suarez lives in the Miami area. He rents down there, but luckily his family's in Cincinnati right now. But the one guy you maybe worry about a little bit is Votto, since one the other way, is Raisel Iglesias. He owns a house down there. All of his stuff is down there. His family is there, and he says that they're going to hunker down and ride it out in Miami. But in the clubhouse today, everyone had the Weather Channel on and was watching the track of this thing and really hoping for the best. So it does not escape the baseball world either.
You're right, JD, and talking with so many players who are natives of Puerto Rico, some of them still live there. They were on the phone to family and loved ones and friends the last couple of days. The storm, there's a bouncer down to third. Cabrera has it. Votto flies out. Cabrera grounds out, and there's 2 away here in the third. Duval's sacrifice fly following a Votto single and a walk to Irvin. It gave the Reds an early 1-0 lead. And here's Scooter, who singled his first time up. But fortunately in Puerto Rico, it went a little north of the island. There's some high water. Some of the island got battered, but not as bad as it could have been. But it looks like this one's going to hit Florida pretty heavy. And of course, people in Houston still recovering. It'll be years before they're back to anywhere near a semblance of normal in some parts of southeastern Texas. Scooter single to right first time up. Pulled up on the bat a little bit. They're way back on the right side, like he had an idea of maybe dumping a bunt down the right side. Strike one. Down the left field line, curving. That'll be in the seats, out of play. 1 ball, 2 strikes to the Reds' second baseman. Well, the importance of being named the Roberto Clemente nominee for the Reds not lost on Scooter Gennett. This has been a great year statistically for him. He's been an integral part of this club in the clubhouse, and to be honored in that fashion just reinforces what an impressive year it's been for him. Harvey gets a 1-2-3 inning, a 7-pitch inning. Reds still lead 2-1. Saturday, September 16th at Great American Ballpark. Thanks to John Morrell. First 20,000 fans through the gates. We receive a triple bobblehead featuring Reds first baseman past and present Tony Perez, Sean Casey, and Joey Votto. Catch all the action for as low as $12. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Reds lead at 2-1, out hitting the Mets 4-3 in the early going here.
Who is that?
Harvey ends the second, so back at the top of the order. Here's Jose Reyes, who's been hot of late. 395 over the last 13 games. His first start in left field in his career. One of the few veterans remaining on this ball club. Reyes flat out first time up. And you know, Chris, we can't go far into this ball game today without remembering there's a bouncer to the right side. Scooter Gennett has it, and there's one away. One of our favorite people in the game of baseball passed away today. You came up in the Yankee organization, and Gene Stick Michael, a great scout, a coach, a manager, general manager here in New York, who really started the bounce back for the New York Yankees organization, passed away today. What a great baseball guy.
Well, really great baseball guy. You know, in the headline about him, they called him the architect of the New York Yankees, you know, strategy over the last couple of decades. And he's been so important in that front office. He was they called him the human vacuum cleaner when he played defense. Of course, can't leave out that he was, I think, a high school teammate of Hal McCoy.
Sure was. Basketball and baseball. Yeah. In fact, Hal always says that there's a hard hit ball down to first. Votto has it. Will take it himself. Hal said if it wasn't for Stick Michael, I never would have made the basketball team as a sophomore. The coach wanted to cut me. He was a senior and said keep him. And of course they became close friends throughout their lives, and baseball wise too. In fact, Hal was a better hitter than Stick. That's one of the reasons why they called him Stick, because he couldn't hit. But boy, could he diagnose people. Man, he knew what it took to put an organization together, and when he took over the Yankees, that's what turned things around. You know, I remember when he took over as general manager, sitting with him, he said, what we need is more left-hand hitting. And before all this analytics started, he said what we need is more on-base percentage. And boy, did he do that. I mean, you're talking about 92, 93, 94, and he still believes that the Yankees would have won the World Series in 94 had it not been for the strike. But he was on the on-base percentage. And as you know, a lefty at Yankee Stadium was a must back then too.
Well, he was a great guy with people, George. You make a good point about him being able to measure people and to size them up and put them in a position where they can succeed. And he was my first manager when I got to AAA in Columbus, and managing the Columbus Clippers. We won the whole league that year, and he was just a real gem to play for. Really just loved Stick.
Remember when he was scouting for the Yankees and the Phillies brought up Cole Hamels. He had been scouting him. Here's a shot to left center field. Going back, looking up is Duvall. He can't get it. It's off the top of the wall. And did it go over the line? I think it went over the line. I think that's a homer. The new left field, that's a home run. Asdrubal Cabrera will drill his 13th homer, and that ties the game at 2. They moved in the fences and then added the line. And that one just reached over the top of the line, and we are tied at 2.
Boy, look where that pitch is. I mean, low and away, a really good pitch by Tyler Mahle. And they're going to take a look at it here in New York. I guess they're first going to discuss it on the field, the umpires themselves. And then Reds may ask for a review. That doesn't look like a. They're going to give him a 2 base. They're going to give him a call
to go over the line, and that does not go over the line. It is. It's got to go over that line to be a home run. It hit the line and bounce back.
Now Terry Collins can be excitable. This may be worth watching. You know, he's got to feel like a defense attorney,
yeah,
who is, you know, defending a guy who you know is absolutely guilty, but you're trying to get him off on some kind of technicality. not working this time.
Let's see.
They're throwing the book at him, the double book.
They're going to challenge it. So they'll go take a look at it. And Jerry Lane telling Brian Price that he wants a challenge. To wrap up the story about Stick Michael, Chris, you and I did the debut of Cole Hamels when he came up with the Phillies. And Stick called that day, the day before, to talk. We were talking about something else. He called. He said, I said, by the way, you've been scouting. Tell me about Cole Hamels. He says, well, when he takes the mound at your ballpark, he's going to have the best changeup in the National League. And boy, was he right. He did for many years while he was in the National League. Stick was on top of things from day number one. And of course, it was Stick who wanted to trade for Paul O'Neill. I mean, talk about changing the life and the career of a great ball player. O'Neill now adored here in New York. And it was Stick Michael who believed that he needed power and he needed his fire. He needed to bring a fiery personality into the clubhouse, and he needed leaders. He brought in guys like Wade Boggs and veterans who helped turn things around and got the Yankees going in the right direction. And
I think most of all, George, he was able to handle George Steinbrenner.
Yep.
And that was a job unto itself.
In fact, I remember George wanted to trade Bernie Williams at least 2 or 3 times, and somehow Stick talked him out of trading Bernie Williams. That was a pretty good move on Stick's part. Outstanding individual, great person, and a great baseball mind.
Jerry Lane, 2 bases.
Double. Well, the Reds said you're right, and Terry Collins can cross off his scorecard and write a 2-bagger in there. So instead of Cabrera getting homer number 13, you see it hits at the line. If it goes over the line, that's a homer. When they first opened this park, Chris, and we came here the first time, there was no wall there. The wall was the second wall. It was a cavernous ballpark. They've brought in the fences from the left field corner all the way to the right field corner to make it more hitter friendly.
And put more seats in. Which is a good idea. Those are nice seats out there right beyond the wall.
If you win. If not, they're empty most of the time. So runner at second, so the Reds still lead it 2-1. And here's Nimmo, who led off with a double in the second inning. What'd you learn the most from Stick as your manager?
I think patience, because he had patience in me. That you just can't rush it, and you also can't, get too out of whack about 1 or 2 bad outings or 1 or 2 bad games. And he was just a guy that really kept everything under control, even keeled. Although he would get pretty excitable from time to time.
Cabrera off second. 1 ball, 1 strike to the Mets left fielder.
Well, we were planning on a road trip one time with the Columbus Clippers. We were down in Tidewater area. We stayed at a place called the Admiral Benbow Inn, and they had a little school bus that would ride the players to and from the ballpark, which was only a couple of miles away. It's where the Mets were playing their AAA down in Norfolk. And one day we played a day game, and we wanted to sneak that bus out and go out to Virginia Beach. So there were about 10 of us. We got on that bus, and we conned the manager in the hotel to give us the bus because we were going to go fill it up with gas, but we didn't tell him we're going to Virginia Beach to fill it up. And so we were pulling out of the parking lot, and here comes Stick in his car. And we all ducked, including Jim Beattie, who's driving the bus. And he ducks, and it's cruising through the parking lot at 1 mile per hour, right? So Stick's car drives away, and we think we pulled one over on him, and he doesn't say anything until the very end of the season. That he says, hey, I saw you guys, and I knew who everybody was in that bus.
With a smile on his face, huh? That's a high ball 4.
The post note on that story is we all came back with no money because we needed some bail money for some of those guys that wanted to, and had too many beers and wanted to fight all the bouncers in Virginia Beach.
Quick story when Lou Piniella was the advisor to George Steinbrenner after he had been relieved of his managerial duties. Stick was an advisor to George. And down in Fort Lauderdale, the Yankees wanted to trade for Phelps from Seattle. Remember, that was the Jay Buhner Phelps deal. It finally came, and Steinbrenner wanted send Lou to go watch Phelps in Seattle. He said, we'll finish it when we return. There's an out. They'll strand the runners, and the Reds will hold on to the lead 2-1.
T-Mobile, a couple of red-hot teams, American League and National League. Indians, first team since 1936 to have a streak of at least 14 games in back-to-back years, and the D-backs set a franchise record with their 13th straight win last night against the Dodgers. And, gentlemen, this is the only time in MLB history to have two current win streaks of 13 or more games.
Hey, JD, don't you think the Dodgers have to be a little worried right now? I mean, if Arizona's played so well, the Dodgers have been losing, and Arizona's had the Dodgers number both at home and on the road. And if the season were to end today, in all probability, it'd be Arizona against the Dodgers in the first round of the playoffs. Dodgers the best record. Arizona would be the wild card.
Yeah, so we were talking about the Dodgers setting the all-time regular season wins record, and now talking about them being cold at the wrong time. But it all matters who's playing good going into October.
Well, also, though, that remember that wild card plays a wild card game to get to the Dodgers. And so if you're going to throw your best pitcher, say Greinke, in that first game, then the Dodgers will be coming back with Kershaw more than likely. And so I would say that would tip the favor in the favor of the team that wins the division.
Suarez a rifle to center field. Lagares there. Right now, Arizona a 7.5 game lead in the wild card. Colorado has the second wild card. Cardinals 2 games back. Milwaukee 2.5 back, thanks to the Reds' 3-game sweep. And Miami 7 games back. Pittsburgh still with slight hopes at 7.5 back. So 1 away. Suarez retired, lined to center after flying to center his first time up. Here's Schebler, who doubled in the second inning and then scored on a Phillip Ervin 2-base hit as well with 2 outs. Harvey back to work with 1 away here in the 4th. And a quick end to the story with George Steinbrenner and Ken Phelps. You know, that's when Seattle played in the Kingdome, and George Steinbrenner wanted to send Lou Piniella to scout Ken Phelps to see if they really wanted to make the deal. There's a rocket into right center field. Another bullet off the bat of Schebler. Rounds first. He'll cruise into second. Will take a turn but hold there. So Schebler back-to-back doubles, and the Reds have another runner in scoring position here in the 4th inning with 1 out.
Boy, Schebler just never ceases to amaze me with his strength. I mean, his pitches on the outer part of the plate. What a great swing right there for Schebler. And I mean, this guy packs a punch. So
he's sitting on second, and here's Turner, who flied to right first time up. So Steinbrenner says, let's send Lou Piniella to Seattle to scout and see if we really want to make this deal. And Lou mentioned the fact that, you know, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to send me there. And Mr. Steinbrenner says, well, what we can do is, Lou, you can, you know, wear a raincoat and a hat so they won't recognize you. And Stick says, George, it's a roof closed in stadium. The Lou never went. They made the deal anyways.
When Lou finally did get there, he went there to manage.
That's right. And that was the story that Lou Piniella, next time you see Lou, ask him about it. 1 ball, no strikes to Turner, trying to get the run in from second. Got in on him a little bit, skied in the left center field. Schebler not going anywhere, and there's 2 away. Did you see Lou sitting in the stands with a hat and a raincoat on? That was a Clyde King deal. Here's Tyler. He bounced to second to move the runner from second to third back in the 2nd inning. Reds got a run in the first, walk to Irvin, single by Votto, sacrifice fly by Adam Duvall, 1-0. Another run in the second, double by Schebler, and after he went to third on the Malley ground out, a double by Irvin made it 2-0. They lead it 2-1. Here's a 1-0. Ball and a strike. This is E. Ball boy. Tough day.
That's a tough angle down there.
That's the one thing you don't want to end up doing if you're the ball boy down either line, right? End up on the field. 1 ball, 1 strike. Aoki, almost like a short fielder in softball, is in about 35 feet behind the second baseman. Two and 1. Oh, almost snuck it down the line. 2-2. That's a good play. Gets a nice round of applause from the fans down there in the corner. Good job. Nice work. Oh, my friends are calling me now. Two-two. Ground ball down to second. Reynolds has it. That'll do it. Reds get a runner. Nothing to show for it. They still lead it 2-1.
7 train. How many Reds players have taken the 7 train?
The train broke down like three or four stops away. So we had to get off the train, and we couldn't find a cab because we were out, and I don't think they had Uber yet. This was a couple years ago. You know, so we ended up walking like 2 miles.
My first couple years, me and Heisey would take it. But then after that, I was like, I'm making a little bit of money. I'm taking a car. I'm not getting on the train.
It's always a show. It's always pretty entertaining.
I think riding the subway in general in New York City is a cultural experience. I mean, you never know what's going to happen on there, so I think it's awesome.
There you have it. Just depends on where you are in the league, I guess. The younger guys take it, make a little money, might take a car out here, and of course there's 2 buses from the hotel each day as well.
Well, you know, Jim, I've always thought that the 7 train is faster than the bus. I know today it took the bus nearly 50 minutes, 5-0, to get here, which normally takes you, what, 15 minutes with no traffic, right? But it was a crawl all the way over here, and I was longing for that 7 train.
Well, Chris Heisey, you heard Kozar talk about it. He would refuse to do anything else but ride that 7 train every time before and after the game.
Well, the best New York story was Sparky Anderson's story, of course, when he left the hotel, got in the cab, says, take me to the ballpark, and the cabbie took him to Yankee Stadium instead of Shea Stadium.
Alfredo Simon did the same thing not long ago. Got in and said, take me to the stadium.
See, now you got the limo, JD. We watched you pull up to the ballpark in that nice, shiny limo.
No chance. I'm a ham and egger.
Here's Dominic Smith, singled in a run his first time up.
He's one of their best prospects in the minor leagues. Smith is. He's had a really remarkable run. A former #1 pick, I believe from the Los Angeles area, who was taken out of high school, signed when he was about 19 years old, but he's had a steady rise through this Mets minor league organization, and he sits right there at the very top of the prospect list. Has some power that has developed more and more over the last couple of years. Always has had a pretty good knack for batting average and on base percentage.
Mets AAA team is Las Vegas in the PCL. There's a walk, so he's on for the 2nd time. And down at Vegas this year, Dominic had a pretty good year. 330, 34 doubles, couple of triples, 16 homers, 76 knocked in 114 games. Leadoff hitter on. Here's Plawecki, and a reminder, MLB.tv every night, every device. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live. Plus, get a free subscription to At Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. The Dominic is on, and here's Plawecki. Now, from what the Mets have indicated, there's a liner into right towards the corner. That's going to go all the way into the corner. Dominic Smith around second, going to third. He'll be held there, and the throw to second won't be in time. It's a 2-base hit for Plawecki. So second and third, nobody out here to start the 4th inning for the Mets.
A little opposite field hitting right there, trying to stay behind the ball, but I can't say driving it to right field, but he finds some fair space down inside the line. So Malley had a 3-batter 1st inning, and after that he has worked out of trouble here, both in the 2nd and in the 3rd inning. Now 2nd and 3rd with nobody out here in the 4th.
Here's Reynolds, who was intentionally walked first time up. Reynolds, another one of those recalls from Vegas in August. Been with the team 4 different times this year, June, July, and twice in August.
You know, one of the things I think worth watching tonight is the work of Stuart Turner behind the plate. Turner was picked up in the Rule 5 draft. We've gone over that many times, and he's had hardly any playing time at all. But what he has done this summer, when he's been at the big league level, is work basically every day with Mike Stefanski as like a personal catching coach, going through drills, going through video to find out how to best use your body. You know, how do you get your footwork going, how to get down and block balls, how to call a game, sitting side by side with Mesoraco or Barnhart to, you know, to work up scouting reports. And I, you know, just have noticed the last few times he's caught that it's remarkable how much he has improved by really not playing, but by being around and working, you know, like I say, with a personal catching coach. And he's come a long, long way.
2-1. Fastball in on the hands, fouled off. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
You know, sometimes you just can't tell a player, you know, let's get him down to the minor leagues and just let him play. Sometimes you need the directions to let, you know, to teach you how to play first and then let you go play. So the challenge for Stuart Turner was to how to take all this instruction and then actually put it into play at the big league level when he gets a chance.
Malley, 2-2, breaking ball down and away. Will go full 3-2. And just as you talk about an individual player's plan, but the organization plan too, and the Reds had hoped to be able to keep him on the major league roster as a Rule 5 pick. If they did not keep him on the roster, they'd have to offer him back to the Twins, knowing that if they could work with him individually this year, next year, hopefully he'll get significant playing time down at AAA. 3-2. That's a called strike 3. That's the first out of the inning. And that'll bring up the pitcher, Matt Harvey. Good bounce back by Malley here to get the first out of the 4th.
Well, that's a key out right there. You get down the number 8 man in the lineup, and I don't care who you are out there. And pitchers go through lineups and they say, this guy's got to be an out. This guy's got to be an out. This guy is going to be tough to get out, and so on. And when you get down the number 8 spot and you're facing Matt Reynolds with a couple of runners on base, you need to get him out. You can't walk him to load the bases.
I don't want to leave anything to chance. Glenn Sherlock, the third base coach, comes all the way in to tell Harvey exactly what they want him to do. Harvey, big swing and a miss. They intentionally walk Reynolds back in the second to get Harvey to the plate, and he bounced out on a 3-2 pitch. Second and third, 1 away. Votto in tied at first, breaking ball, and Suarez in tied at third. And once again, Malley behind the opposing pitcher. It's 2-1. Malley thought he had that. Doesn't get the call, and it's 3-1. He went to 3-2 with him last time, and this is the 6th time he's gone to a 3-ball count to a Mets hitter here in the 4th inning. That's a strike. We'll go full again. Roll through the signs one more time. Malley peers in from Turner. Good spot, swing and a miss, and there's your second out. Back-to-back strikeouts when he needed it for Tyler Malley at the right spot in the lineup, number 7 and 8. Here's Reyes.
Well, we saw the other night that Robert Stevenson had bases loaded, nobody out, and he was able to get out of that inning against the Milwaukee Brewers by striking out the side. And Malley doesn't have bases loaded, but nearly as tough a jam here with first and or second and third, nobody out. He's 2/3 of the way out here.
Pretty good contact hitter, and Reyes up. Flied out, grounded out, 0 for 2. Reyes short swing, and that'll get a run in. The runner coming around third. Here comes the throw to the plate. It will not be in time, and the run will score. Both runners score, and the Mets take the lead. Jose Reyes has been red hot for the last 2 weeks. And he gives the Mets a 3-2 lead.
Yeah, for everything that he's not done as a New York Met recently, he's done lately, including getting that first pitch breaking ball there and driving it into right field to drive in two. Good slide there by the backup runner, Plawecki.
The Reds have been pretty good at throwing out runners. They lead all of Major League Baseball. This throw a little bit up the line. A perfect throw would have had him.
Yeah, but you know what? 2 outs on a ground ball base hit, it makes it awfully tough.
So Reyes now in scoring position. The Mets with a 3-2 lead. And here's Aoki, who singled and bounced out 1 for 2. Missing 2-0. This is a Mets outfield and there's Tim Adelman starting to loosen in the bullpen for the Reds. This Mets outfield at one point had Cespedes, Conforto, Granderson, Jay Bruce, and when they dismantled and traded or lost some of those to injury, Sandy Alderson went out and brought Aoki in for the month of September, basically. Of all the deals made, Chris, in the last month or so, this was one of the more strange ones that we've seen, huh?
Well, I mean, a guy gets released one day and gets picked up and put not only on the roster but in the everyday lineup here. That's what's happened to Aoki. We didn't even have a photo for him. Presumably still being held up in customs.
That's up high, and now it's 3-0. Another 3-ball count, the 7th for Tyler Mahle, and he's sitting on, this will be his 70th pitch here in the 4th inning with 2 away. And another walk. So 2 walks in the inning. One of them has come around to score. And that'll bring up Cabrera. Cabrera bounced into a double play first time up and then hit one off the top of the wall and left. First ruled a home run, and then after the umpires reversed that and called it a double, the Mets challenged, and the replay umpiring crew, which this week is Ted Barrett's umpiring crew down here in New York, ruled that it did not go above the orange line in left field and was only a double. So Cabrera's 1 for 2. Breaking ball up high, misses. That is a strike.
He got
called
the call
a strike.
up there.
Yeah, he'll take it. Way out in front, pops it up in the infield. Who's going to take charge? Suarez will, and he's got it. But the damage done, leadoff walk and a double, both come around to score. Mets have a 3-2 lead. Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, being brought to you by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together, and by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. Well, the Reds had Matt Harvey on the ropes in the first inning. They sent 7 to the plate, could score only once. They got another run in the second. Since then, Harvey had a 1-2-3 third, gave up a double to Schebler, but got out of the fourth without any other trouble. And here we go to the fifth. He's now got a lead, 3-2. Phillip Ervin's been on twice, walked in the first and scored, and doubled in the Reds' second run in the second. The ball he hit off the wall and left was a rocket shot. Look out.
Foul ball.
Bat or arm. Jerry Lane saying bad. Out comes Brian Price. Yeah, that's what. And Lane says yes, go down to first. Took him a while to come to that decision. Yeah, right off the elbow in the forearm. Ooh. Never did hit a bat at all. Ooh, that's just not a glancing blow either.
Well, he wants to rub that in the worst way, you know it. I don't get that tradition of not rubbing it.
Well, you're a pitcher. I wouldn't expect you to. You're not from the Don Baylor
When
school.
they hit shin burgers back at your ankles, I tell you, I was rubbing those.
Irvin's going. Plawicki's throw will be wide, and it's a stolen base for Phillip.
He wasn't even given a chance, Plawicki that is. And Irvin had a big lead right there, and Harvey very deliberate to the plate. You'll make Joe Morgan happy with that feet first slide.
Amen. Second stolen base this year to go with 23 down at AAA. And Christian, you love it when they do it. Joe always talks about this. Do it early in the count. Give your batter a chance to get something done. Don't wait till it's 2-2 or later in the count. Get it done, and Irvin sure did. Here's Cozart, popped up, struck out 0 for 2. The Mets have had a fastball dominated power pitching staff here in recent years, but a staff that you could usually do some numbers with in terms of stolen bases, and combine that with catching tandems in most cases that were below average. The Reds have tried to exploit the running game against Terry Collins' ball club. 3 balls, 1 strike. High in the air. It's going to stay in the park. Nimmo under it. There's your first out. Back to second goes Irvin. And make your trip to the Reds game a true big league experience by checking out the newly renovated Scouts Club presented by Belterra Gaming. Step inside the spacious, luxurious Scouts Club. Enjoy a full service bar, grab and go concessions at Home Plate Market, and a whole lot more. Get your Scott Club tickets today by calling 513-765-7210. Another one of the great remakes that Phil Castellini and the Reds have put together at the ball club. It's just a super area. Here's Joey, singled and flied out 1 for 2. That's a strike. That's a liner, but caught by the first baseman, and they'll not be able to double up as Reyes tries to tap the bag. Votto hits a bullet, but right to Dominic Smith.
Well, he's hit the ball hard every time up. Votto has a base hit in the first inning to drive a run, and a line drive to the left fielder, and this one a sizzler right to the first baseman.
Here's Adam Duvall, a sacrifice fly, plated the Reds' first run in the first inning and then bounced to third in the third. .72 pitches now for Harvey. You would expect, if not his last inning, he won't go much further than the next, depending on how this inning goes for him. And they've started some action in the Mets bullpen. Lefty Josh Smoker and the righty Seawald up and loosening. Got in on him, popped up down to first. Dominic Smith back under it, got it, and the Reds will strand a runner. They've stranded 5 and trail at 3-2 as we go to the bottom of 5.
Telecast is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Fox Sports Support's proud to team up with Snowball Express and their commitment to providing hope and new happy memories to the children of our fallen heroes while on active duty since 9/11. By bringing children together from all over the world, Snowball Express provides an annual life-changing event to make each child feel special as we remember the lives of their parents. Visit foxsportsupports.com to learn how you can help out. Tyler Mahle's night is done. 72 pitches, 39 strikes, 4 innings pitch, 6 hits, 3 runs, all of them earned, 4 walks. And 2 strikeouts for Tyler Mahle. Tim Adelman takes over, Chris.
Well, the right-hander's had a number of starts. You see the 120 innings among tops of the Reds pitchers out there this year. He was the one guy that really nobody gave much credence to in the very beginning of the year when the Reds broke camp with a couple of rookies in their lineup. Of course, they had Brandon Finnegan and Scott Feldman as the opening day starter, and one by one they either all injured themselves or were sent back to the minor leagues, and it was Adelman that kind of came in and took over, and he had a pretty good run there for quite a while. In fact, I think he is second on the team lead right now in overall numbers of quality starts.
Here's Brandon Nimmo, who will lead it off, hitting in the cleanup spot. Now, the way things have changed, Kevin Long, the hitting coach for the Mets, talking before the game, saying the other day when he wrote out the lineup card and Nimmo was in the cleanup spot, Nimmo came in and said, "Are you sure that's right?" I haven't hit cleanup since high school. That's the kind of year it's been for the Mets. Nimmo doubled and scored in the second, and he walked in the third.
I mean, other than a total rebuild, maybe that we have seen 2 times by the Marlins after they won the World Series, have you seen such a drastic change and turnover in a roster than what you've seen here in New York? I mean, they're 2 years away. They were 2015 in the World Series with the Kansas City Royals, and one player who started for that team in 2015 is starting in this game tonight.
Fly ball to left, going back to Val at the wall, looking up, and he won't get this one. It's off the top of the wall. Nimmo, that one, did it go over the line? This one did go over the line. Last one hit the yellow, the orange line. This one hit right up above it. That's a home run. Nimmo will get credit for his second homer, and he's hitting like a number 4 hitter tonight. A double and a homer, and it's now 4-2 Mets.
The home run ball has been one thing that's plagued Adelman all year long, but I'll tell you what, this Mets ballpark, Citi Field, is playing completely different than what we remember, George. When it first opened and before the balls were around quite as tight, you could pitch to a safe part of the ballpark. You can no longer do that here in New York.
It was designed as a pitcher's park, and when the pitchers didn't pitch and the hitters complained, all those fences were moved in and lowered dramatically. And now when you look at it, the Mets going into tonight are #1 in homers. In fact, that home run was their 200th of the year. #1 in the league. The Reds have had a pretty good year with 195. They're 4th in the league. And this one's hit deep to left. Forget it. That's going to be gone by Lagares. Back-to-back homers here in the 5th inning, and the Mets have taken a 5-2 lead.
You talk about unloading on one. That's what that looks like right there.
That's a homer before or after renovations here at Citi Field. Add one more to the number we just gave you. That's now 201, second most in team history.
Well, that's an odd stat when you really consider it. The second most home runs in team history, yet they're 1 game worse than the Cincinnati Reds. And I know the home runs mean something. I mean, a lot of teams live and die by the home runs. Team across town here, the Yankees have only won 4 games all year long when they have not hit a home run. That's worse than baseball, but man, oh man.
There's Dominic Smith, who singled in a run and walked. I mean, you look at the records. The Reds come in 61 and 79. The Mets are 60 and 79. The Reds very clearly, for Brian Price and company, started the year in a rebuilding mode. This Mets team was expected to go to the postseason, not just a wild card, but win the division. And I mean, look at the difference in payroll. This was a $150+ million payroll here in New York. The injuries to the pitching staff and the injuries during the year to regular players spelled doom for this team in New York this year. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Strikeout #1 for Adelman.
When Adelman was really throwing the ball well as a Red starter, I mean, his curveball was working exceptionally well. His changeup was too. And I thought his most effective fastball was the pitch that was up. That he's got nice backspin on that 4-seam fastball, but he kept trying to push that sinking fastball like that 2-seamer. But to me, it kind of stays on the same plane. It may move a little bit, but it moves from side to side rather than down. So I think he's one of these guys that, you know, can pitch a little more effectively, more up in the zone with the fastball, and than he does.
Here's the catcher, Plawecki, bounced out and doubled, 1 for 2. Down to short, 2 hopper to Cozart. 2 away.
The guy who is really responsible for Tim Adelman ever being signed by the Reds is here with the Reds now. He's their special assignment scout advisor. I think he does a lot of other things. Sean Pender. And it was Pender who was a coach at St. Joe's College, and he had just retired when Adelman had decided he was going to commit to St. Joe's. So he decided, hey, instead of going to St. Joe's, maybe you want to go over here, play for one of my other students over at Georgetown. And that's where he ended up playing. And then when Adelman bounced around the minor leagues, eventually down in the independent leagues, he got a call from somebody who knew Sean Pender. Pender did, and said, hey, this kid Adelman is now throwing really hard. You ought to come over and take a look at him. And sure enough, and he is right here. Sean Pender is. Put a little spotlight on him. We'll see if we can find him and put a little spotlight on him. There's Sean Pender.
Nick Kroll and Walt Jocketty here. Pender to the left, Nick Kroll in the middle, Walt Jocketty on the right.
And that's a pretty good thing, really, when you get a kid out of an independent league and he ends up coming up and you know, being a part-time starter for you for 2 years in the major leagues. That's a diamond in the rough.
Pender, well-respected scout and also a great instructor too.
That's what college coaches are.
Yep.
I mean, they know how to instruct, and they know how to get you drills, and they know how important repetition is, because they don't get the talent that you do in the minor leagues professional baseball. But he's got a good depth of baseball knowledge, as Sean Pender.
3-1 to Reynolds. That's ripped, curving. It'll go foul into the left field corner. Harvey due up next, and Travis Tyrone, the pinch hitter, is in the on-deck circle right now with Harvey due up next. And you got to figure that Terry Collins, now with the Mets with a lead, want to get Harvey out with a pretty good feel-good night for him after a year that has been anything but that. Now you remember moments, Chris, in every postseason, and remember the moment when the question was, would Harvey stay in or be out? Would he be taken out of the game? Terry Collins left him in, went the extra inning when he came back and said, it's my game, I want it. That went south, and from there it's been a rough road for that big right-hander. That's ball 4, so Reynolds will take a walk. Tyrone will come in to pinch hit, so Harvey's night is done. And after a horrible night in Houston, where his team lost 12-8, and he only went 2 innings and allowed 7 runs, tonight Harvey's gone 5 innings, 2 runs, and exits with a 5-2 lead. So for Matt Harvey, it's a step in the right direction tonight. So Tyrone gets to pinch hit here in the bottom of the 5th with a runner on and a 3-run lead after the 2 home runs back-to-back by Nimmo and Lagares. Way out in front, swing and a miss, and it's 2-1. The Reds ended one long losing streak against the Mets, that 14-game losing streak overall. That was in the home series back in Cincinnati. They have not won in the last 6 games here, so they're trying to end that losing streak here at Citi Field. Bright lights of New York, not an easy place to play at times, and certainly not an easy place to manage as well for veteran manager Terry Collins. That misses on the inside corner. Since the start of 2014, the Mets are 18-4 against the Reds. Runner going. That's bounced past the second baseman Scooter Gennett into right field. A base hit. So the pinch hitter Travis Tyrone gets a base hit, and now there are runners at first and third with 2 away. Back to the top of the order, Jose Reyes. It was Reyes' base hit that gave the Mets the lead for the first time last inning. That played at 2 and gave them a 3-2 margin. Reyes, now 34 years of age, native of the Dominican Republic. This one hit deep to right center field, but it'll stay in the park. Phillip Ervin at the warning track will haul it in. But back-to-back homers to start the inning, one by Nimmo, the other by Lagares, and the Mets now have a 5-2 lead.
Ohio, let's update you on Hunter Green, the #2 overall pick in this year's draft. Made his 3rd start for rookie Billings yesterday. His 2nd start, he got beat up pretty good, but rallies here. 3 innings, gave up 1 hit, 1 run. It was unearned. 1 walk and struck out 4 through 35 pitches, 25 strikes. Is a guy that didn't pitch since April, so they're building him up slowly. I communicated with general manager and president of baseball operations Dick Williams today and asked him, is he done for 2017 because Billings' season ends this week? He says no, he is off to the instructional league. He will pitch this fall and continue to build up and work towards spring training next year.
When you talk about Hunter Green, and we talked earlier tonight about Castillo and about Malley, the presence that they have, watching Hunter Green in high school and being a part of an appearance that he made out in Los Angeles, watching his presence, it's the same kind of presence that you see in Castillo and you see in Malley that this young man has. Long way from being in the major leagues, but it's that same kind of spark that you see in his eyes and the way he acts. Here's Scooter, lead it off in the 6th. Josh Smoker will take over, the left-hander, one of 2 left-handers in this bullpen for the Mets. For Harvey goes 5 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 5 hits, 1 strikeout, 1 walk, and 74 pitches. So I guess if you're Terry Collins and Dan Worthen, you get him out when he feels pretty good about his performance tonight.
Well, he probably also had enough pitches for him, George, too. I think that's the biggest thing for Matt Harvey, is they want to make sure that they're handling him as conservatively as possible. You know, make sure that his pitches are under control, number of pitch counts and things like that. I always think that the management doesn't feel quite as empathetic with how a pitcher feels. You want to get him out of there while he feels good. Well, you know, the pitcher may feel completely different about his outing than the manager may think about that outing. The manager may think it was pretty good, but the pitcher may look at the video and say, you know what, I can't believe I got away with all those mistakes. I'm not going to do that next time. I'm not happy at all. So this wasn't bad for Matt Harvey. Certainly a whole lot better than it was last time.
Here's Eugenio Suarez, fly to center, line to center, 0 for 2. Smoker, now 28 years of age, a native of Georgia. Been around a little bit. Spent a little bit of time with the Mets up here towards the end of last year and back again this year. A little giddy up on that one at 95. And it's 1 ball and 2 strikes. Spent some time on the DL earlier this year. Since coming back, has struggled with command, and after left shoulder tightness, they hope that he might be a part of this bullpen come next year.
Everybody's looking for left-handers.
I mean, you look here, it is September, and 2 teams that are out of it, and the Reds have only, there's a swing and a miss. Suarez retired. Back-to-back strikeouts. Let's go back to the studio in Cincinnati for Brian Giesenslaw and a studio update. Boy, you talk about on a roll. Tito Francona always says, let's just get to September and then turn it on. They're turning it on. They have an 11-game lead going into tonight over Minnesota. The Red Sox a 4-game lead over the Yankees going into today's activity, and Houston a 14.5-game lead over Los Angeles. Indians have been just something else. In the wild card hunt in the American League, New York has a 2.5-game lead for the first wild card spot, and then Minnesota has the second spot with a half-game lead over Los Angeles. Baltimore a game back, Texas 2 back, Kansas City 2.5, Tampa Bay 3, Seattle 3.5 back. So you talk about 6 different teams within 3.5, Chris. That's something.
Just in the American League. I mean, it is nearly as exciting in the National League.
Back-to-back strikeouts for Smoker, 3 in a row here in the 6th. Bottom of 6, Reds trail 5-2. spring training experience in Goodyear, Arizona, sponsored by the Reds Community Fund. This is a great program. 2 lucky winners, not 1 but 2 lucky winners, will enjoy breakfast with the team and VIP treatment, plus airfare, hotel accommodations, and more. Raffle tickets just $100. All proceeds benefit the Reds Community Fund. Call 513-765-7700 or email raffle@reds.com to purchase today. They have only 1,000 tickets, so no matter what, if all of them are sold out, you still got a pretty good chance for this one, Chris. That's pretty neat. You know, in the old days, a lot of families went down to Sarasota, Florida. Not as many have been able to get out and experience what Goodyear is. You've been out there every spring. They've done a tremendous job.
You know, once you get out there and you realize how much fun it can be down in Goodyear and the Phoenix area for spring training, you'll be back. It'll be something that'll be on your March calendar every year. Alejandro Chachin is the new pitcher. He spent most of the year down in AAA with the Reds down in Louisville. 44 games down there. You see the numbers up here in 3 games. Not overpowering. A right-hander who's 24 years old from Maracay, Venezuela.
Tim Adelman goes 1 inning, allows 2 home runs, 3 hits, 2 runs in total. And Chachin takes over here in the bottom of 6.
He has been in the Reds organization for 7 years. Chachin has. And now, finally, at age 24, making the major leagues.
Popped up in the infield. Who's going to take charge? Cozart will. And there's 1 away. Aoki is retired. He singled his first time up to stretch his hitting streak to 10. Bounced out, walked, and this pop up to the shortstop. That'll bring up Asdrubal Cabrera, who bounced into a double play, doubled, and then popped out to the third baseman. By the way, the Reds and Fox Sports Ohio would like to send out a very special happy birthday wish to Bob Shell from Germantown, Ohio. Bob's celebrating his 91st birthday today. So, Bob, whether you're watching tonight or whether you watch in the re-air tomorrow morning, hope you have a great day or had a great day. And we thank you for hanging in with Reds baseball all season long. 91 years young, still rooting on the Reds.
So he's been through years like this before then.
Yep. Guaranteed. And looking forward to 2018 already. 1 ball, 1 strike. Ripped into right, a base hit for Cabrera, his second hit, 2 for 4. And just a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one, to look forward to Miller Time later in tonight's game, brought to you by Miller Lite. Well, not often you see Brandon Nimmo in the cleanup spot, but he's taken advantage of it tonight. He's been on base all 3 times, doubled and scored in the second, walked in the third, and homered to lead off the 5th. Getting a chance to play with all the trades and the injuries. And the biggest, of course, is in left field where he's playing tonight. And the question is, will Yoenis Cespedes be the power source and stay healthy next year to be the key to this lineup? Back on the disabled list again is Cespedes now. And he, you know, it's sad, Chris, I know, in talking with the Mets, and also it's been great to watch. Terry Collins reiterated it today that Jay Bruce was such a great asset to this ball club on the field and off, and he really served as a mentor for Michael Conforto. Very similar to the way he mentored so many of the young Reds outfielders that came up, most recently Jesse Winker, who spent a lot of time with him as he came through the minor leagues and spent time with him in spring training. But Conforto really came into himself this year, offensively, defensively. Dislocated his shoulder, operated on. He'll hopefully be ready for spring training, but it's going to be close. They say it's a 6 to 7 month recovery on the shoulder operation.
Yeah, he will be ready maybe by March 1st, but they may have to hold him back a little bit in the spring and so on. But I think you're right about Bruce. I mean, Bruce was given the same kind of mentoring, you know, when he was coming up through the Reds organization and then to the major leagues. You know, he had Ken Griffey Jr. there to kind of help him out through some tough times.
It hurts watching it again. Oh. Dislocated the left shoulder. Needed surgery. That surgery this week. And
I've never seen anybody dislocate their shoulder on a swing like that.
Strong young man. And an outstanding young man, too. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Nimmo. That's popped the other way. The count stays 2-2. Talk about strange injuries. The bullpen coach here, Chris, remember when he went on the disabled list after this one drilled to center field. Back is Irvin looking up. Guess what? It's gone. How about Brandon Nimmo? A double, a walk, and 2 home runs. He's acting like a cleanup hitter tonight. Put 2 more on the board, and the Mets now lead at 7-2.
Baseball's a funny game. The Reds take 3 in a row against the Milwaukee Brewers, who are in a tight race trying to keep their pennant hopes alive. I mean, they were hustling and busting it out, and the manager really pushing the buttons to try to get everything he could going against the Reds, and the Reds sweep them. And they come right in here against the Mets, who most of these guys you've never even seen before. And they're down by 5 in the 6th.
A career night for Brandon Nimmo. 2 doubles, 1 double and 2 homers. And I guess Terry Collins and Kevin Long knew what they were doing and putting him in the cleanup spot tonight. Here's Lagares. He homered last time up as well. But you talk about strange injuries. You said you've never seen anybody with a swing dislocate a shoulder like that. This one popped up into short right. Will anybody get there? Schebler will, and there's your second out. Remember when Ricky Bonas went on the disabled list, injuring his back watching TV?
Well, it was a complicated Chase Lounge that he got caught up in.
And add this one to it, too. Wilmer Flores swings and breaks his nose. At first they thought he'd be able to get back, and now they've put him on the disabled list with a broken nose. That's a ooh. Talk about weird injuries and weird swings. Oh. Terry Collins could write a book on this year. Probably will someday.
He may have some time.
Question whether he will be back next year.
He's in the last year of his contract. He had a multi-year contract that I think was signed in about 4 years ago. And it ends here in 2017. They have not extended him or picked up an option if there is an option. And of course the New York papers have been having it on the back of their dailies just about every other day about Terry Collins, whether he'll be back or not. Funny how you're riding high a couple of years ago when you take that team to the World Series. Even last year you get into the playoffs as a playoff team in the wild card. And this year they're getting ready to kick you to the curb. Life in the fast lane.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Longtime Dodger minor league operator and managed in Houston for 3 years, Anaheim for a couple of years. Been here with the Mets since 2011. Going to the postseason. Half-hearted swing and a strikeout, but not before the damage done. A single by Cabrera. Nimmo's second homer, and the Mets lead at 7-2. started out pretty good for the Reds. A sacrifice fly from Duvall, and then Phillip Ervin's double in the second inning made it 2-0 Cincinnati. They were off and running. But then the other way around, Jose Reyes started the rally, giving the Mets the rally for the first time in the fourth inning. This single knocked in two. The Mets took the lead 3-2. And then how about Brandon Nimmo in the cleanup spot? A double, a walk, 2 homers. This one makes it 4-2 Mets, and the second one makes it 7-2 Mets in the 6th inning. For Brandon Nimmo, 3 for 3 in the 2 home runs. And the Mets now 7 runs, 11 hits, no errors, 2-5-0 for the Reds. Tyler Mahle started for Cincinnati, 4 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 strikeouts, and 4 walks in 72 pitches. Matt Harvey started for the Mets, 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, a strikeout, and a walk. So for the Reds, it'll be come from behind baseball if they're going to pull this one out here tonight. And you used to seeing this guy at the end of a game, but after first a suspension and then injury, Chris, Jerry's Familia still trying to get things together as 2017 comes to a close.
Yeah, there was a time when he was about as capable as any right-handed closer in baseball. But he has fallen tremendously since that time. As you said, suspension, injury. He was on the mound last year, actually, in 2016 in that wild card game when the Mets and the San Francisco Giants squared off. It was Bumgarner versus Syndergaard, and it was a 0-0 game all the way until the 9th inning when they brought in Familia, and he ended up giving up a 3-run home run to Connor Gillespie, the only runs of the ball game, and the season was over for the Mets.
Turner dribbles this one wide of third. Nice play by Cabrera, and there's one away.
He's not going to beat out too many of those.
Now, interesting, we just left Pittsburgh, and you and I talked about, losing Gung Ho Gong there. That changed the tenor of their offense. Here's a nice play by the third baseman to get Turner at first. And that injury, or not injury, the fact that due to his inability to get back in the country after his legal problems, that had the same kind of effect here with Familia. Familia was a guy that you didn't have to worry about the bullpen. You knew that he'd be your shutdown guy, and that changed things dramatically when they lost him.
Again, I think it's how you lose them too.
Yep.
If you're suspended, it just casts a different pall over your ball club, the same way it did for Starling Marte and the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yep.
Who, by the way, the Pirates are in. I thought they were in Chicago. Maybe they're in Pittsburgh in this series.
Yep. Here's Zach Vinci pinch hitting for the Reds in the pitcher's spot here in the top of 7.
Pirates are down 4-1. John Lester on the mound for the Cubs.
Last gasp hopes for the Pirates. And by the way, congratulations to Neil Huntington and Clint Hurdle. When we left after the game we left the other night from Pittsburgh, both of them extended for 4 years. Plawecki takes the worst of this one. Give him some time to collect himself as Vinci pinch hits here in the 7th inning. And the Mets have been talking a couple of years about upgrading behind the plate, and Sandy Alderson indicating this week that he's happy with the catching tandem that he has in Travis d'Arnaud and Plawecki for 2018. A little low. 1 ball, 2 strikes to the Reds infielder, drafted back in 2012, made his debut in Pittsburgh. Good slick glove guy, Chris. Whenever you've seen him at spring training and in the minor leagues, very impressive with the glove.
Well, he's earned his way here to the major leagues, George. I think he was a 36th or 37th round draft pick, which put him somewhere around the 1100 or 1200th player taken in the draft that year. So the odds are really long. He ended up making the major leagues from there, and boy, he's worked hard. What a nice young man.
At Louisville all year, 106 games at short, played some third as well. Hit 270 this year. Still looking for major league hit #1. Under the glove of Familia, but right at the second baseman Reynolds, and he's retired. 2 away. Back to the top of the order, Phillip Ervin, who's been a bright spot for the Reds tonight. He walked in the first and scored. He doubled to give the Reds a 2-0 lead in the second. Hit by a pitch in the fifth and then stole a base.
You know, in the little amount of time that we've seen Ervin play up here, because he's been riding the pine mostly, he has been very impressive. I mean, much more so than I ever saw him play, you know, in a minor league game in spring training or in a big league game in spring training. He always looked a little bit stiff, but he just looks much more like a ball player now. And maybe it's the number of at-bats and repetitions he's been able to get over the few years, but good looking player.
Ted Williams always used to say, I don't want to talk to a player or try to change him until I see him get 1,000 at-bats in the minor leagues. Yeah. And sometimes guys grow up differently. Some rapidly, some take longer, some collect themselves in a different manner, but he's gotten better and better each year. 0-2, that's up high. Jim Hickman, the former Met player and a former coach with the Reds, Chris, in the minor leagues. He was always one of those who was so patient with young hitters. Don't panic. Give them a chance. Don't cut them loose just because they had one bad year. Wide to third. Cabrera has it. And the Reds go quietly. 3 ground balls. Facing Familia here in the 7th. To the bottom of 7. Red trail 7-2.
Institution started in the sports world and the broadcasting world. They call it Sports Center. And there was a guy behind the desk on that first night, none other than George Graham. Check him out. This date, 1979. And boy, has the sports world changed since then. George, do you remember the first score that you announced that night? Or the first result?
Yeah, you know, it was funny. I did show #1 with Lee Leonard, a longtime NBC reporter here, and we thought we had an interview set up with Chuck Fairbanks. We had 2 other interviews. None of them came through, and we sat there and we said, what are we going to do? We said, we'll just talk for half an hour. And that's what we did in those early days. I talked to Bob Lee today. Bob and I, of course, part of that initial group. Bob joined us a couple of weeks after we started. And it's always fond memories, you know, just like here, Chris. It's about, you know, teammates that you had as a player and teammates that we all have together from a broadcast standpoint. Those the moments that you and I have shared over the last 25 years, and the years we spent there were pretty special. A lot of great memories. And the answer to your question, JD, the first game we covered was slow pitch softball. The Kentucky Bourbons and the Milwaukee Schlitz. That was the first game we did after Sports Center.
Well, according to folklore, on that night, the first result you announced was Chris Everett's victory over Billie Jean King at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, that was a night to remember. There's a fly ball to center field. The new pitcher for the Reds, Jackson Stevens, takes over. Irvin hauls it in. But you remember more than anything in those days when we started, the only thing that was operational in ESPN in Bristol was the set we sat on. Everything came out of remote trucks. We had an open door, and there was a little skunk that came into the studio looking for wrappers from the local McDonald's to get his dinner. Everybody kind of hoped that he'd just get the wrappers and leave.
So in the middle of the broadcast, he would come
in the middle of the broadcast. Good memories, great people, a lot of fun. We've all been pretty fortunate to be with the people that we've been with, both on the field and here in the broadcast booth too. One away, and here's Reynolds. Intentionally walked, struck out, and walked again. And they didn't know whether we'd last 3 weeks, let alone 30+ years. Well, you heard Brian Price say that the Reds are going to give a lot of these young pitchers a chance to show what they could do. Jackson Stevens is one, Chris, that's getting an opportunity right here in New York.
Well, he's only pitched in one game with the Reds so far. It was a start. He went 5 innings, gave up 3 runs overall, but he had a pretty good year down in AAA. Was 7-11 overall, Stevens was, but I don't think that necessarily shows how good he was, given the fact that the bats down low really struggled wins and losses this year. Struck out 110 and 139 innings, so he's got a strikeout pitch. But he's not one of these overpowering pitchers. He really probably projects more maybe like Tyler Mahle with his stuff, rather than a guy with a really high velocity fastball, say like Luis Castillo. Doesn't mean he can't be a big winner in the big leagues, though.
Here's Familia, who will hit for himself here in the bottom of 7. Showing bunt, takes a strike.
The adjustment that Stevens will have to make, though, here in the month of September, and same with Cody Reed or any of the other pitchers that they brought up, is pitching out of the bullpen. Getting ready quicker, coming into the middle of the game when the rest of the game and team players are already up to game speed. It's a whole different feel, and I think for somebody who hasn't done a whole lot of pitching out of the bullpen, I don't think Stevens has. I think for the most part he has been a starter, except for the very first year he signed as an 18-year-old. That's going back a ways. He is 24, will not be 25 until next May. Excuse me, 23, Stevens is. Still very young.
Picks up a strikeout there, so there's 2 away with 1 on. And Brian Price talked about it. All these young pitchers are going to get a chance in different ways. Some will start, like Amir Garrett will get a start tomorrow. The one guy who started earlier who probably will not start is Cody Reed, and I think this, you could clearly say, is an audition to see if he can be part of this bullpen next year. The Reds had Wandy Peralta this year, but beyond that, struggled to have left-handed relief. Here's a bouncer down to second. Scooter has it, and that'll do it. So a walk from Jackson, and that's it. Reds go back to work in the 8th. Cozart will lead it off. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the update. Look forward to Reds live post game. Here's Familia in his second inning of work. Changes for the Mets. Cabrera exits the game, and Reynolds moves from second to third, and Gavin Cecchini will be your new second baseman. (7-2) Mets. Here's Cozart to lead it off. Top of 8. Fouled at the plate. Zach tonight popped out to first, struck out, and flied out. Reds started off with a great opportunity against Matt Harvey. Irvin walked after Cozart popped out. Votto singled. Duvall sacrifice fly made it 1-0. Scooter Gennett then singled, but Suarez sent a fly ball deep to center field that Lagares tracked down, and that ended the Reds' rally in the first. There's a liner into left field, a base hit past Jose Reyes. But Cozart gets his first hit of the night. The Reds have a runner on here in the 8th. If you joined us late, Matt Harvey went 5 innings, allowed 5 hits and 2 runs. He's on the winning side of the scoreboard. Tyler Mahle went 4 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 strikeouts, 4 walks, one of them intentional, and 72 pitches. Your report card on Tyler tonight, Chris.
Well, you know, he got good outings and bad outings. Not one of his best. It was his shortest of the 3 that he's had. But, you know, I think at 22 years old, I keep running him out there. I continue to want to see him pitch.
There's Joey, single to left, fly to left, and then hit a blistering line drive that Dominic Smith's flagged down at first his last time up. Hit hard down to second. Cecchini to Reyes, and Votto will bounce into the twin killing. So Cecchini into the game right away, gets tested on the 4-6-3 double play. Votto retired, 2 away, and here comes Adam Duvall. 0 for 2 in the sacrifice fly. Votto's hit the ball hard 3 times, a single to show for it, and then that double play ball and the line drive out to first. Now, Chris, we go into the manager's offices of the Reds, of course, with Brian Price in the coach's room. Same thing of all the visiting clubs. And when you went in to talk to Terry Collins and Kevin Long, who were together today, they were talking about, you know, the influx of young players as you look at Brian Price in the Reds dugout. And they both right away from the top said, you know what I enjoy doing, and this is a game of video. Everybody watches video now, whether you watch a game in your clubhouse or you're watching video for a scouting reason. They said we marvel night in and night out at the at-bats that Joey Votto gives the Reds. That is old school. That's what Kevin Long called it, old school, and that's good old school.
Yeah, I don't know how he says it's old school, but maybe it is. I think Votto is redefining new school, kind of taking the on-base percentage and the hitting with 2 strikes and fouling pitches off. I mean, I never remember guys fouling pitches off to stay alive like Votto does. I mean, what they used to do is have 2 strikes and then hit the ball the other way. But now Votto, you know, still doesn't relinquish his power with 2 strikes. He just tries to keep the at-bat alive until he gets a mistake pitch from the pitcher.
Kevin Long was an outstanding hitting instructor. Was with the Mets and now here was with the Yankees and now here with the Mets. Said, you know, every time I watch him, I'm more impressed by the way he goes about his business. He can go 0 for 2 and then all of a sudden he's 2 for 4. He could hit 4 bullets and you never know by looking at him. And you know, for all of us that get the chance to watch him day in and day out in the cage in batting practice or down underneath, the way he works out, the way he prepares, if you don't watch as a young player and see how he operates, you're cheating yourself, because if you watch him, you're going to find out how to be a major leaguer and a good major leaguer. 3-2 to Adam Duvall. That's a call, strike 3. Duvall says, how can that be? Jerry Lane gets the final word on that one. The Reds, even with the base hit, go 1, 2, 3. To the bottom of the 8th we go. minutes before every game on Fox Sports Ohio with all the info you need for that game with Reds Live, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. And don't forget, Jeff Coral, Brian Giesens will all be by with Reds Live post-game. And guess what tomorrow, Chris? Get to see Amir back on the mound again.
I'm looking forward to that. Had a nice conversation last night on the Reds plane coming from Cincinnati into New York with Amir, and talking about some of the changes that he made down in the minor leagues. And I'm looking forward to seeing him on the bump tomorrow.
Of course, he's returning to home turf here. He was a basketball player at St. John's. In fact, he was going to go over and talk to some of the athletes at St. John's earlier today, then couldn't work it out. He may before the weekend is over. He's a darn good basketball player, and you can see why. Romano, Stevenson, Rookie Davis all together there. And our pregame show tomorrow, and Jeff Pecora and Brian Giesenslaw join us. JD will sit down with him, talk about this year. Swing and a miss by Aoki, who singled his first time up, stretched his hitting streak to 10. He's 1 for 3 and a walk tonight. Got him. Strikeout number 2 for Jackson Stevens.
Good looking breaking ball. I mean, there's no up in that ball at all. It doesn't go up and then down. When it starts to go up and then down, it gives a hitter a chance to read it a little bit better. That ball just comes right off a table.
Here's Cicchini, his first at bat after coming in for Cabrera.
You could see with Stevens' delivery why he would have a good breaking ball. He lands kind of straight up, very firm front side, short stride, enables him to get right on top of the baseball. It does inhibit the overall velocity he's going to have, but he's got good movement. 93 is plenty. Those that say you need to throw 98 miles an hour nowadays to get hitters out just don't know anything about pitching.
2-0. Popped up in the infield. Suarez, edge of the grass, got it, 2 away. Hey, don't forget Saturday Major League Baseball is on Fox again. Wild card chasing Baltimore. The Orioles are in Cleveland. Face the Indians again. Indians have won 14 straight. Or you can catch an American League slugfest between the Yankees and the Rangers all Saturday at 12:30 Eastern on Fox. Check your local listings or stream live on Fox Sports Go. The Yankees go from Baltimore to Dallas to take on the Rangers. And then the Yankees are scheduled to go to Tampa Bay, depending on what happens with this hurricane that's on the way. Talking about a hurricane, this guy's been a hurricane on the field tonight. Brandon Nimmo doubled first time up, scored on a single by Dominic Smith. That was the first run for the Mets. They trailed at that point 2-1. He walked in the third. He homered in the fifth to give the Mets a 4-2 lead, and then he homered in the sixth to give the Mets a 7-2 lead, and that's where we are now. Back in the old days, Tim McClellan was the man who had the most delayed strike call, and now that he's retired, Jerry Lane owns that tab now. They get the out at first. 1, 2, 3 in the bottom of 8. Last roundup for the Reds. Scooter Gennett will lead it off. September 16th at Great American Ballpark. Thanks to John Morrell, first 20,000 fans. Through the gates will receive a triple bobblehead featuring Reds first baseman past and present. Doggy, Tony Perez, Sean Casey, and Joey Votto. Catch all the action for as low as $12. For tickets, visit Reds.com. Last roundup for the Reds. Scooter Gennett will lead it off. Suarez and Schebler due to follow as we go to the top of 9. New pitcher for the Mets. Tomorrow, don't forget, you'll get a chance to see Amir Garrett right side of the screen there. Will take the mound for the Reds. Here's A.J. Ramos, who will take over. Ramos has become the closer. He's 6 for 6 closing games since taking over that role, and put together a pretty good year. His 55th appearance of the season, Chris.
Well, he is. He's a solid pitcher, no doubt about it. He's taken over that closer role, as you said, George. And, you know, like the Reds closer, Ramos hasn't had anywhere near the number of opportunities that you'd like to have.
Here's Scooter, singled his first time up. Popped up, struck out, 1 for 3. 7 runs, 11 hits for the Mets. They've left 11 on. 2 runs, 6 hits, no errors for the Reds. Cincinnati is stranded 5. The runs for the Reds, a sacrifice fly by Duvall in the first. Run scoring double by Irvin in the second. And since then, they threatened twice against Matt Harvey, but Harvey exited after 5, allowing only 2 runs and 5 hits. They've had only 2 hits since the 3rd inning. A double by Schebler, who has 2 doubles tonight, and a single by Cozart.
Kind of funny, really, because the way this game started off, it seemed like the Reds were just going to unload on Matt Harvey. They had one good look after another in the first couple of innings, and after that, the Harvey kind of shut him down. And it was the Mets bats that got active.
Two balls, 1 strike. What a night for the left fielder for the Mets, Brandon Nimmo. A couple of homers and a double. Inserted in the cleanup spot, and he sure is hit like a cleanup hitter tonight. Nimmo back, reaching up, and have a night ended. Nimmo, not only the 2 homers and the double, and you know he's going to smile on this one. He didn't see it. It's a smiling night for Brandon Nimmo. Nice catch in left field. And Scooter says, what else can I do? A line drive out off the bat of Scooter Gennett. Sometimes you just have a night, and number 9's having it tonight.
Wow.
Don't go to sleep. And play the lottery at the same time. Here's Suarez. You mentioned that first inning, Chris, with the Reds. They scored 1. They had 2 on base, and Suarez hit one right on the button to center field that Lagares tracked down at the warning track. That falls. That whole first inning would have looked a whole lot different. Suarez fly to center, line to center, and struck out. Slapped the other way and out of play. Cubs now lead the Pirates 6-1. They're in the 5th inning. Milwaukee leading Miami 4-3. Rather check that. Milwaukee's off tonight. Atlanta leads Miami 4-3. Cardinals are trailing San Diego 1-0. They're in the 2nd. And Washington's leading the Phillies 4-3. They're in the 7th.
Ramos is one of those pitchers who I've always thought, George, seems to throw harder than he does. You see him pitch and you see the action on the ball, and then you look at the radar gun and you say, that was only 91. Spent his entire major league career with the Marlins before being traded over here to the Mets this year at the trade deadline.
Takes care of that. There's 2 away, and here comes Schebler. Schebler tonight, the 2 hardest hit balls for the Reds. A double to right and a double to center. 2 for 3. They'll overshift to the right side with Reyes the only infielder to the left side. Waves at that 1-1. Tomorrow, Reds Live at 6:30. Game will follow. Amir Garrett goes against Seth Lugo. Lugo will get a shot for his 6th win, and Amir will try to win his 4th. It's been a long time since he's been in the rotation for Cincinnati. Homer Bailey will go Saturday against Chris Flexen, and Sal Romano will go on Sunday against Rafael Montero. Here's the 1-2. And that'll put the capper on this one. 7-2. The Mets win it. 7 runs, 11 hits, no errors, 2-6-0 for Cincinnati. What a night for Brandon Nimmo. You name it, he did it on this night. 2 homers and a double, and an outstanding defensive play as well. So number 9 has a night to remember here. In honor of bowing to his Aoki, the Mets will celebrate a Game 1 win in this 4-game set. We'll be back to talk more about it after these messages.